In lesson 4, we're studying more numeric variables. So just to kind of rehash a few things we've talked about before, our basic numeric variables are the int variable. This is what we call a primitive variable. It's part of the original Java language. So for instance, I could have an int variable such as num1. At that point, I have declared num1 to be an integer type variable. Okay, so for the remainder of this program, anytime the compiler encounters the 4-character sequence num1, it will treat that as an int type variable. So I've declared num1 to be an integer type variable. And again, that's what we call a primitive variable. Okay. At this point, though, I would have to give num1 a value. So on a separate line of code, I could say num1 equals any type of integer. Now, integers don't have decimals and they don't have fractions. So I could make this a positive or a negative integer. When we use the equals sign, such as I did right there, that's what we call the assignment operator. Okay? So the assignment operator, which you probably just refer to as an equal sign. Okay, but one thing we want to remember with Java is that the assignment operator, the equal sign, always flows from right to left. Okay, and this can get a little confusing when we're first learning how to program. So when we say that it flows from right to left, well, just like that kind of implies, we're saying that the number on the right is assigned to the value on the left. So the variable num1 picks up the number negative 168. So for example, I can't do this in the other direction. Okay, so like right now, if I were to hit compile, that's fine. If I tried to reverse this and say negative 168 equals num1, and I hit compile, it's not going to like that. Okay, so it's expecting to see a variable on the left, and it found an actual integer value. It didn't like that idea. It would be perfectly okay for me to reassign num1 a new value. So if I later changed my mind and I thought, no, I want num1 to be 888, no problem. This should compile just fine. So it's a variable. It's allowed to vary in its value, and you could change its value at any point in the program. But again, it can only flow from right to left. Now, once I have declared to this program that num1 is an int type variable, I cannot declare that again. So if I were to tell the compiler now that int num1 is coming, it says, nope, you've already done that. And I can't change its type either. So if I decided now that I wanted num1 to be a double type variable, I can't do that. I have to give it a separate name. Okay? So if I wanted a double, I could declare a double maybe called num2, and now for the remainder of this program, num2 will be treated as a double type variable. So what does that mean to be a double? Well, that means it's allowed to have a decimal and or a fraction. Okay, so for example, maybe I want this variable to be the number 1.234. Okay, so now I have declared and initialized this variable to be a double type variable. Okay, and so for the remainder of this program, num2 will be understood to the compiler to be a variable that can hold the value of a double type value. Okay, and so at this point, if I wanted to declare and initialize some more variables, I could. And I think I showed this before in a previous video. You can declare and initialize in the same row, and you can have multiple values, and that's perfectly okay. Then you could later reassign values to X, Y, or Z. Just remember that, like I mentioned, everything flows from right to left. So you always want to put your new values on the right of what we call the assignment operator.